we present the news quiz with your host, Sandi Toksvig.
Katie, who had a taxing interview this week?
Well, it was Miliband Minor, wasn't it? The kind of the Miliband saga, like one of the worst Jeffrey Archer books you've ever read. He was asked for a straight answer, I believe, on several occasions, and he appeared to not know his own economic policy or several of the other policies that they've been sort of banging around between games of squash for the past few years. And they had quite an embarrassing interview, which he then had to admit that, you know, we all make mistakes.
You could hear David laughing all the way from New York. It was... Anyway, what we've done, it's a thought, you can try this at home. It's a little drinking game. Have a listen. Every time Miliband fails to answer the question, have a drink and see how you get on.
Your solution to producing more growth is to spend more, is it?
Well, let me give you just one figure, but I think it's really important.
All I'm asking you is to explain how you're going to boost growth. I just want a straight answer to that.
Well, I am giving you a very straight answer.
I'm asking you what you would do right now. If I made you Prime Minister right now, what would you do?
What we would do right now is the 5-point plan for growth and jobs.
So you'll have to borrow more, wouldn't you?
No, because you don't understand, Martha. I don't think you're quite accepting this point.
I'm asking you about your plans, not George Osborne's. I'll be talking to the Prime Minister. I want to ask you.
But it's very relevant.
I understand why you want to change the subject.
I'm not changing the subject at all.
Just answer my question, which is...
It's very relevant to this point. It's very relevant to this point.
You want to cut...
When she said, if I were to make you Prime Minister now, she said, can you just do that? Please, Martha.
But the funny thing was, you could hear the panic in his voice when she said it. Like, if I could make you Prime Minister now, it's like, oh, God, don't do that. I haven't figured it out yet.
Inside, he'd be saying to himself, don't say magic beans, don't say magic beans.
Surely the excuse was that he was overexcited because he'd been to a Q&A with the public. And I haven't seen these on television, does these Q&As. Apparently he stands on a pallet to do them. I don't know what he does when he's finished. Perhaps a forklift truck puts him back in the warehouse along with all the other planks. I don't know what to do.
Just tell me one thing, I'm curious. Why didn't Ed Miliband just admit on The World at One yesterday, Sadiq Khan, that Labour's planned reduction in VAT could lead to a temporary rise in borrowing?
You have to ask Ed.
Yeah, well, we've said that for about a year we'd have a temporary VAT cut, but that obviously depends on the state of the economy, and you have to make a judgment, budget by budget, about the necessity of that VAT
that's
cut.
Interesting you say, okay, for about a year. Now, that would cost the Exchequer around £12 billion. So how would you fund that?
Well, what I'm saying to you is that we would have that temporary VAT cut, that would contribute to growth, and that would get borrowing down.
It wouldn't contribute to growth tomorrow. If you're Prime Minister now, cut VAT for a year, you're going to have to spend £12 billion, and you hope you'll get the money back in the medium term, but you don't know that. So you'll have to borrow more, wouldn't you?
No, because you don't understand, Martha. I don't think you're quite accepting this point. Why has George Osborne's borrowing gone from 0 to £61 billion? Why do you think that is?
I'm asking you about your plans, not George Osborne's. I'll be talking to the Prime Minister. I want to ask you.
But it's very relevant.
I understand why you want to change the subject.
I'm not changing the subject at all.
Just answer my question, which is...
It's very relevant to this point. It's very relevant to this point.
You want to cut VAT by... and which will cost the country £12 billion. How are you going to fund that in the short term? I'm not asking you about the medium term.
No, the whole point about a VAT cut is it would get growth moving. And if you get growth moving, you get more tax revenues in, and therefore you get borrowing down. That's the point of what we're saying. And I think it's really important.
Possibly you do. You don't know that, do you?
Well, I don't accept that. All of the independent estimates that I've seen say that a VAT cut would contribute to growth.
Now, one of the reasons I've been pressing you on this is because some of the criticism of your leadership has been that because you're not so clear on giving answers to some of these questions, that's why Labour is behind on trust when it comes to running the economy.
No, I think that the issue is different to that. I think the issue is that people see that you've had 3 years of this government. You see a government that has taken the country in the wrong direction, but people are asking this very profound question, which is, can anyone sort out the mess that the economy is in? Now, my emphatic answer to that is yes, but that's got to be proved, and that's what we are proving, and that's why I'm going around the country talking about the things that matter to people, from young people and getting young people back to work, to investing in homes, all of these things that that will, I think, make a difference. So a lot, of course, Sarah, I think people are asking this very, very important question about the country, which is, are our problems so deep that nobody can actually make a difference to them? My emphatic answer is yes.
I wanted to turn now to your own personal approval rating. And the good news is you're doing better than Michael Foot. The bad news is that your rating is lower than Neil Kinnock at this stage in the election cycle.
I'm not much interested in these issues, I'm interested in talking to people about what's happening in their lives. I mean...
You're not interested in how popular you are?
Well, let the polls take care of themselves, I say, Martha. Look, I became leader 2.5 years ago. Different people at different times make criticisms. That's what you get with leadership. I feel confident about Labour's message. We've got a One Nation message, which is a real message about how we can change the country. We're setting out really important policies for people. As I go around the country, I feel people responding to Labour's message. And in the end, then the voters make their choice, and that's what they'll do in these county council elections and then at the general election.
Well, they may or may not be responding to Labour's message, and Labour is, of course, ahead in the opinion polls, but you've got a net approval rating of -16. Are you holding your party back?
No, I don't accept that. I think that what I've done since I won the leadership, is I've not only set out what's really important for an opposition, a critique of what we got wrong in government, because you've got to be, if you're an opposition leader who says we got everything right, then frankly you remain in opposition. So you say where we got it wrong, you set out a vision of the country, and I think it's a big contrast to the Tories, because I think it's saying we use the talents of everybody in this country, not just a few, with opportunity and responsibility, and then you set out policies that will make a difference. And sure, look, there's a big mountain to climb in politics today, because everybody's asking this question, which is, is it possible to turn the country around? I say it is, and that's the message I'm taking out on the doorsteps, and as I say, we're getting a good response.